I haven't spoken about the origin generation. Of course, whatever is generated has to move to somewhere where we want it to be, right? So that brings us to the top concept of migration. So migration really is every process that involves the movement of what was formed as oil or gas from one location, which is called the source, to another location, which we call the reservoir. So from source to reservoir, whatever happens moving through from one to the other is called migration. There are different understanding in terms of the types. Primary migration is primarily within from the source rock through the process of diffusion or pressure, mostly around the source where it came from. And then secondary migration will be every process that helps the oil or the gas or the hydrocarbon to move from that source through what we call pore spaces, as well as buoyancy effect to a final location, which is the reservoir. So that's secondary migration. And then if you look to your left, you see what we also have highlighted here. Primary migration mechanism. If you see what it is, it's largely within the source and across. But secondary migration is, in this case, you see that it's within what we call the reservoir, which is where the oil, which is the host, the home for the hydrocarbon, okay, within those pores. And there are other schools of thought that might be tertiary, but this is primarily the two main types of migration. So this sketch, this sketch you're seeing is also to further demonstrate how they are expelled from the source rock, which is usually deeper than the reservoir rock. Reservoir is usually above sometimes, most times. So because of pressure, the hydrocarbon is squeezed out from the source. It finds its way through the reservoir, and it keeps moving up until something keeps it from getting to the surface. This is just highlighting cores, but filled with hydrocarbon fields. There's something we call fractures or faults, micro faults. So these lines here are like micro faults or breaks, or cracks, you may call it, in the subsurface that the hydrocarbon has found as pathways in moving. Incidentally, this is within the reservoir, so they're just here. Okay, so in exploring for this, we also look out for oil shows and things like this in subsurface photos and cores. This is this is a sketch. I think I have a video on this also. I think I'm going to show it also. A surface occurrence of hydrocarbon. There's something we call oil seeps, where oil in the subsurface goes from the source to the reservoir. It keeps moving up until it gets to a point where it is supposed to be trapped, but for some reason you have fractures or cracks, and then the oil finds its way through those cracks, just like we saw in the previous slide, and it gets all the way to the surface. And then we see those surface occurrences in the form of oil seeps or oil pools. So this is all speaking about migration. Again, this is another picture I also I have, hopefully to also show to show you a lot about migration. So this is showing what we call oil, heavy oil actually coming out through a certain layer of rock. This is taken from Okitipupa. And these are real. You go in there, you touch this, it is oil oozing out of the rock on the surface. And that is because the oil in the subsurface has found its way through some cracks and it's made its way to the surface, and we're seeing it out there. I think I'm going to also show a video of where you have bitumen coming up to the surface from leakages like this.